podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.
PNR.
Hey guys, welcome to Ring Around The Rosie. My name is Kim Brown. I'm also known online as Platinum Rose Lady and occasionally that nutty chick that somebody let near a computer. What an awful mistake that was. It is January 17th, 2018, and this is my very first frickin' podcast for wrestling. I am really, really excited. Hopefully you guys like my show. I would like to say up front and just getting it out of the way right now. This is not safe for work. This is not going to be a safe for work podcast. There is going to be swearing. There is going to be sexual innuendo. Actually, no, there's not going to be innuendo. I'm just going to talk about sex. Where I can or where I want to because it's my show. Fuck it! So anyway, I know probably some of you are going, who in the hell is this lunatic and who gave her a microphone? Well, I have been a wrestling fan for a very long time. This is the get to know me phase. Aren't you pleased? As I said, I've been a wrestling fan for quite a bit, couple of decades, more than a couple. All right, I'm old. Yes, fine. I'm old. Fine. I prefer to think of myself as classic, but I also prefer to think of myself as Rubenesque, and that's not entirely accurate either. It's not, they say you have curves. Yeah, I have curves. The problem is my curves have curves, so, what are you going to do? So, what can I tell you about me that you actually care about? Besides being a wrestling fan for quite a long time, I am a writer. I have done a little acting, done some voiceover work, have another podcast that I do myself. I have other podcasts that I do with my husband, who amazingly puts up with all of my shenanigans and goings on. I am a huge fan of the CW show Supernatural. That's my other podcast, my other solo podcast, Platinum Rose's Garden. So if anybody out there is a Supernatural fan, and if you are, let me applaud you on your excellent taste. You can come check it out over at PlatinumRosesGarden.com. It is also not safe for work, and very often I go off on X-rated tangents. So yay, First Amendment! The other shows that I'm involved with on the interwebs would include Subject Cinema, which is a movie podcast that me and my dear, sweet, long-suffering husband TC do. We talk about movies and movie reviews and have all kinds of fun over there. And we also have a list show called Front Row 5 and 10. You can check all those out, and they're all part of our family of shows that we do with other people. There's other shows that other people are part of as well. And we just try and have fun and, have a good time. Let me see. I am a huge science fiction fan. I am a Warzy. I am a Trekkie. Actually, I prefer to call myself a Trekker. I'm not quite at the Trekkie level yet, thankfully. But I am an enormous Warzy. I've been a Star Wars fan since I saw the first movie way back in the day, and you don't even have to know how old I was back then. I'm into fantasy, horror, science fiction, superheroes. Basically, I'm what Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows call a nerd. Deal. Fuck it, deal. I like to write. I like mysteries. I like all kinds of music. Heavy metal, glam rock, classic rock. I actually like a little bit of country. I'll dip into the odd rap every once in a while. And I like to have fun. And I do like wrestling. I got into wrestling the way I get into most of stuff, purely by accident. I became a wrestling fan one day when I was changing the channel, back when you had to get up and go to the TV and change the channel. Yes, kids, we actually had to do that at one point. Life was really hard back then. And I was just, doodling around on the channels and such. And I happened to catch a wrestling match. It was Roddy Piper versus Jimmy Superfly Snuka. They showed a little bit of the before the match, and the before the match was the infamous Piper's Pit where Roddy Piper took the coconut and bashed it upside Jimmy Snuka's head. Now, May, being a, little white Catholic girl from the suburbs, had never seen anything like this. I was like, holy shit, what did that guy just do? And then they showed the match, and the match involved Roddy Piper beating the living hell out of Jimmy Snuka, bloodying him up, and the whole thing of the match was that it was, that he had really hurt Snuka, and the storyline was that was the whole storyline of it, that Snuka was going to be out with a serious injury. This was the way that they brought in Snuka's nephew, the Tonga Kid. And I remember watching the match and watching the back and forth and stuff like that, and I had never seen anything like this. Like I said, white, sheltered kid from the suburbs, nice little Irish Catholic girl, didn't know any of this stuff. And I was like, damn. I'd seen my share of blood and stuff like that in the horror movies I watched. I'm more of a classic horror movie fan than the torture porn stuff that's out now. I mean, if that's your thing, fine, you be you, whatever. But, give me a Christopher Lee movie any old day and I'm happy. I just remember thinking to myself, when that other guy gets better, he is going to tear the dude in the kilt apart. And I want to see what happens next. So that was my opening the door into wrestling, and promptly opened the door and fell straight into the rabbit hole. Boom. And I mean, I'm not saying that I haven't walked away from wrestling a couple of times. That's the thing about wrestling, you can kind of walk away, but you can always come back. You can always come back. And the crazy thing is, a lot of people have always, compared wrestling, even, people involved in wrestling, so I don't think this would be considered a slur or a slam or whatever. A lot of people have said that wrestling is a soap opera for men. Which I was at first, the time I heard that expression, I was like, was that an insult? I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. But the way I look at it now, I definitely don't think it's an insult now. I also I look at it now and I'm like, there's a lot of women in that audience, so the whole, soap opera for men thing, it's manly, yes, but I like it too. And if you remember where that came from, congratulations, you're old. Sorry. In case you hadn't noticed, I can also be a raging bitch when I want to be. It's really helpful that I'm so cute, otherwise I'd be completely impossible to be around. But, anyway, moving on, we're over here now. The whole idea that, with the whole soap opera thing, it actually makes sense with wrestling, besides the outrageous storylines and the over-the-top characters and things like that, which is what people usually mean when they talk about wrestling being like a soap opera. But another way wrestling is like soap operas, is the fact that when it comes to a soap opera, you can watch for a while and you can stop watching for, a week, a month, a year, and come back, and it's really amazing how quickly you can get back into it. There might be some people that might be different. There might be some people that might be gone. There might be some people that are playing their long-lost twin brother that's been found in the jungles of Peru or whatever, and now they're back. But you can get back into the storyline very quickly. You just go, oh, I remember this, and oh, that's so-and-so, and they were here, and now they're over here, and, when I was watching last, they were an orthodontist, now they're a rodeo clown, whatever. That kind of a thing. With wrestling, it's kind of the same. You can watch for a while, and then if you just, lose interest or whatever, or life gets in the way, life can really get in the way sometimes, and you don't watch for a while, but then you come back And sometimes it can be a little disconcerting at first because you're like, oh, I don't know that dude, or who's that person, or didn't this guy used to be a good guy and now he's a bad guy and stuff like that, but it's really amazing how quickly you can get back into it. And that's a very cool thing. And I think that's one way wrestling should be proud to be like soap operas. At least, that's my opinion for what it's worth. And, hopefully you guys will tell me what you think of my opinions. If you have any comments or queries or agree or disagree with anything I'm saying, platinumroselle@yahoo.com. And I will definitely read your letter on the air if you'd like me to. As you may or may not be able to guess from my accent, although I do try and tamp it down a little bit, I am from the great and glorious state of Massachusetts. So I grew up mostly, when I started watching wrestling, it was mostly WWE, back when it was WWF. And before any wise asses out there ask, no, I don't remember when it was WWWF. I hadn't gotten into it by then. So I started watching mostly the WWF, and then as I got more into wrestling, I was like, oh wow, they have wrestling on TV from Texas and from here and from there. And, it was a really cool time to be a wrestling fan back then because it was starting to become more mainstream to be a wrestling fan. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I got ranked on a lot at school for being a wrestling fan. On top of the other 900 things I got, bullied about and stuff like that. Because according to people in school, I was either a devil-worshipping witch or a communist or a, lesbian, or not that there's anything wrong with being a lesbian. But, or this, that, whatever it was that they decided to make fun of me for because I was just weird. And I took it back then. Nowadays, I wouldn't take it. I was like, no one believes me, but I was painfully shy in high school. I was ridiculously shy in high school. I was a really antisocial little monster that wore all black in high school before they called it being a goth. It was just being that weirdo that wears black all the time. Hello, you can't see me, but I'm totally raising my hand. And another thing that had me ostracized from all of the girls that I was in school with was that I liked wrestling. Although I finally people were like, ew, why do you like that? And I just basically told them the truth. It's half-naked, muscular men. Ta-da! There it is, right there. I'm not gonna lie to you guys on this show. There is no sugarcoating here. I watch wrestling because there are some really hot fucking guys. Ta-da. Or there's just people that I find intriguing. And I also have to say there are some very beautiful women in wrestling. There are some very beautiful ladies. I am comfortable enough in my sexuality that I can say when I think another woman is beautiful and not think that that's a weird thing to do. I think we should compliment each other all the time and, be positive to each other. I never understand the whole thing with women that are like, oh, she's beautiful, I hate her. That's like, I don't get that. I completely don't get that. But I'm not like other girls. And I have the therapy bills to prove it. But anyway, no, like I said, I grew up watching the WWF, and that was really cool. It was really weird once the whole pay-per-view thing started. Obviously the whole, WrestleMania and the first couple of WrestleManias, the first, I would say, I don't know, maybe it's 10. I don't even know how many there were up to that point that did the whole pay-per-view at the theater thing. I know the first one did, the second one, third, I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure about after that. I just remember when the whole thing started and being like, you go to the theater to watch TV? I was like, oh, what? I was like, does anybody else think this is a really weird concept that's not going to work? Oh, ha ha, was I wrong? But I actually didn't see my first pay-per-view until they were actually done at home because my parents were like, you are not going to spend money to go watch TV. It was also because I have to be perfectly honest, the WrestleMania, I want to say it was WrestleMania 2 or WrestleMania 3, when they were showing it at the closest place they were showing it to me, where I grew up, was showing it in Boston at this place in Boston that's a really cool place to see shows, the Orpheum. And my mom was completely like, you are not going to that place. That place is a fire trap. That place is a rat hole, blah, 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 blah. She wasn't wrong. I mean, it's a great place to see a show, but if you're expecting, elegance at the Orpheum, you're in for a rude awakening. The same thing could be said of course, the Boston Garden. When you grow up in Boston, you go to the Boston Garden, or at least you did. When we were at that age, the Boston Garden was where you saw everything, the Celtics, the Bruins, the circus, the Ice Capades, which I got dragged to, and the WWF. I went to a lot of WWF shows at the Boston Garden, and that was a really amazing experience. I've been to a few since. They tore down the original garden, which was, oh man, that was the worst. When they tore down the original garden, that was the absolute worst. I was like, we are watching something really important be taken down, and it sucks. And I knew so many people that were like, that place was a fire trap, and that place was a rat hole and all this stuff like that. And I was like, well, yeah, but it was our fire trap and it was our rat hole and it had character. Yes, you did drown in your own sweat when it was hot, and you froze every single, drop of moisture when it was cold, but it was ours, damn it. And it was a really special place to see wrestling because you felt very close to the action, and that was a very cool thing, and it was a very special thing. I remember being there the night that Randy Savage won the Intercontinental belt from Tito Santana, and that was really exciting. I remember being there for a cage match between Bruno Sammartino and Roddy Piper, and the thing I will never forget about this cage match, oh my gosh, I remember Roddy Piper coming out to the ring, and they had the cage up, and he had these rolled up posters under his arm, and we were all kind of looking at each other like, what has he got in his, what's this about? So he gets in the cage and he starts hanging these posters up, and they're posters of Jim McMahon and the other members of the Chicago Bears. Now, at the time, the Super Bowl was coming up, and everybody knew it was the Patriots versus the Bears. And oh my God, the arena exploded into booing and swearing and yelling, and I think they would have thrown chairs if they could have. That's the crazy thing about Boston fans. I know every place thinks they have the best fans, and I have to say wrestling fans are some of the most passionate fans ever, when some of them aren't being smarky jerk-offs, but you know who you are. But when wrestling fans like you, they really like you, and wrestling fans don't like you, they really don't like you. And that is, times that by about 1,000, and you have what happens in Boston. If they're behind a wrestler in Boston, they will cheer till the building shakes. And if they don't like you, they make it very obvious they don't like you. I remember reading some old time wrestling memories of, classic wrestlers talking about how they, wrestling fans in Boston would throw nails and just throw all these outrageous things and, do all this crazy things. They'd find out who somebody's, whose car belonged to who, and just completely wreck it. And now I know as an adult, being a mature, responsible adult who can be legally charged with shit, that, you don't want to do things like that, because if there's one thing that can be a little bit more stressful than, Boston fans, that would be Boston police officers. They don't fuck with that shit. They will knock you around if you like, they will put you on the ground very firmly and tell you that you're doing something wrong, that kind of a deal. And I'm not knocking any of those Boston police officers. Please don't think that. But like I said, if they like you in Boston, they love you. And if they hate you in Boston, duck. It's, that's not nice, but people get passionate and people get crazy. And wrestling fans are devoted, and devoted can be another way to say completely fucking nuts. Although I do find it really interesting that people give wrestling fans a hard time. It's really weird because people give wrestling fans a hard time in the same way people give science fiction fans a hard time. Now, I mentioned I am a science fiction fan. And the thing about being a science fiction fan is that you, like wrestling fans, you get picked on by people that don't get it. If they see somebody wearing a Star Trek shirt, you have people that will make fun of you. If they see you wearing a, Undertaker shirt or whatever, they'll make fun of you. But it's perfectly okay to be a sports fan, like sports, like legitimate sports, quote, like football and basketball and baseball and all that. Not that those aren't hard sports to do. I know they are. So, there's that. But it just amazes me how, certain people will give you crap for wearing a wrestling t-shirt, but it's perfectly okay to paint half your body green and half your body yellow and sit out in an open air stadium in 20 degrees below, freeze your nuts off, with a thing of cheese on your head, of, foam cheese on your head, and bellow like a wounded wildebeest. That's okay. That just means you're a fan. But wrestling fans have to deal with, oh, you're a wrestling fan. And then, of course, there's the obvious thing that every wrestling fan has had to deal with, I think, pretty much since the beginning of professional wrestling, where you have some fucko that thinks they're doing you some enormous favor by walking up to you and going, wrestling, that's all fake. Now, these are people that see, this is where you run into the whole responsible adult thing, because my first reaction to somebody like that is the little Irish warrior inside of me that's going, smack him right in the face. But obviously you can't do that because, legal stuff, obviously. My way of dealing with these people is the way I pretty much deal with anybody who annoys me. I just sarcasm to death. I just keep flinging sarcasm at them, just until they go away or, just cry. Whatever. Usually my big response to that, when I get the whole wrestling's fake and all that, my whole thing is that I say to people stuff like, when you watch a horror movie, and, Jason takes that big machete and lops somebody's head off and they're flopping around on the ground like a chicken and their head's on the other side of the room. I don't know if you know this, but that's a special effect. That person's not really dead, that kind of a thing. It's like, but you wouldn't call that fake. You'd call that a movie, and you call it suspension of disbelief. Wrestling is a story. The guys and the girls who go out there are playing a character. Sometimes it's an overly exaggerated version of themselves or a facet of their personality or whatever. But at the end of the day, they go backstage and they take off their costume or they take off their mask and they go out and they go be whoever they are when they're not wrestling. But you just have these people that insist on telling you that it's fake. To which my response has also occasionally been, then you get in there and do it, asshole. Let's see how well you do. Obviously, and you can't really, I would never insult the people who are very hard workers who are professional wrestlers, because they are crazy hard workers. Because what they're doing is not fake. You know, obviously you guys know that because you're wrestling fans. You know, I mean, people get injured for real. You know, people get killed for real, unfortunately. I mean, that's a sad fact of life that some people have died in the ring from, you know, things going wrong, you know, and that's obviously never a good thing, but it happens. But, you know, how do you guys deal with the fake thing? I mean, how do you deal with, people coming up to you and giving you crap? I'd love to know. I'd love to know have you dealt with somebody who's really, like, needled you about it to the point where you've lost a friend, or gotten in a fight with a family member, like, in a shouting match or something like that? Have you ever got up and just walked out of a room because somebody wouldn't stop giving you crap? PlatinumRoselle@yahoo.com. I'd love to know. I'd really like to know. Like I said, my usual way of dealing with it is just sarcasm, or just giving them this kind of, like, really? Sort of like, God, you're an idiot stare. You know, I can't be bothered with people like that. I'm like, I know that it's not all real. The athletes are real, the athletics are real, the injuries are definitely real, but, it's a story, it's suspension of disbelief, for crying out loud. You don't really think that Henry Cavill can take a machine gun barrage to the chest just because he plays Superman, do you? I mean, not that Henry doesn't look awesome in the outfit. I did mention having a bit of a superhero hang-up, didn't I? But anyway, so I'd really like to know what you guys, do you have people in your life that don't approve of you watching wrestling for whatever reason? I mean, whether it's, the whole it's fake, or, it objectifies people, or it's glorifying violence and all this stuff like that, which I have also heard that crap. I've also had that shit thrown in my face, that it glorifies violence against women. Not as much as it used to. God, I miss ECW. But, the whole idea that it just glorifies violence in general. And the thing is, this kind of shit comes from the same people that, said rock and roll was was going to ruin civilization. And then it was Dungeons and Dragons. And then it was heavy metal. And then it was rap music. And then it was Pokemon. And then it was this, that, and the other thing, and violent video games and blah, blah, blah. Fuck you. I can't stand that crap. I really hate that. The whole idea that, you're going to blame one thing for the reason that somebody went completely off the rails, and it's not that there haven't been a couple of occasions when people have, hurt themselves when they're imitating wrestling moves, but considering the fact that pretty much every fucking week they run a do not try this at home thing on, the wrestling programs that are on, what the fuck else do you want them to do? Have somebody show up at your house and be like, hey, can we tell you not to try wrestling moves at home because you're not a professional wrestler? I mean, crying out loud, it's like, it's this, you can't, it's like the whole thing that used to happen with kids that would tie a towel around their neck and jump off the shed because they were trying to be Superman. Nobody back then was like, I'm going to sue the TV station. They were like, you were being a fucking idiot, kid. But that's, society changes and such. But I can't stand these, pearl necklace grabbing, think of the children type people. I can't fucking deal with that. Ugh! It drives me insane. That's something else. Obviously, we're going to take on a different subject here for a second. The whole family-friendly aspect of the WWE over the last few years. Now, since the WWE became a public company, which is the whole stock market thing, which I totally don't get, because math's hard. That's not a sexist thing. That's not a gender thing. That's a me thing. I hate math. But since the WWE became a public company, they've gone with this whole more family-friendly image and more family-friendly product. I hate using the word product like that, but I don't know how else to say it. I don't know about anybody else. I can't deal with it. I watch it, but I'm sitting there going, half the time I'm sitting there going, oh, damn, I miss, like, I don't know if I'd say I miss the Attitude Era. I miss things about the Attitude Era. I don't miss everything about the Attitude Era, but I do miss some of it. I miss some of the things about it, not everything. I mean, I'll probably talk more about specific things as time goes on, but there was just a lot more spontaneity back then. At least it seemed like it to me. I mean, things were probably just as controlled back then as they are now, backstage and writing wise and all that kind of jazz. But it just seemed things were a lot more spontaneous, back in the 90s and aughties and such. But, I mean, everything changes for good or for ill. Everything changes. What can you do? So I suppose I should talk a little bit about, since I mentioned WWE, which is what I mostly get to watch. Sometimes I get some Ring of Honor. Occasionally I'll get some All Japan, which is really, really special. Wrestlers that I'm really interested in right now, I suppose I should get to that. If you want to listen to that part of it anyway. If you've stuck around this long, you're probably a masochist, but thanks for sticking around anyway. I guess that's the best way to put it. I'm sorry. There's some people looking back at the WWF, WWE, so on and so forth. There's going to be certain people that to me are always people that, and looking to other places too. Favorite wrestlers of mine over the years, including people like the Von Erichs, Dusty Rhodes, Magnum TA, Bret Hart, The Undertaker, people like that. Those are people that you think of, and it makes you smile when you think of those days when things were a little bit more innocent and such. I suppose they seem more innocent. I'm trying to think who else is really important. Barry Windham, Mike Rotundo, all those guys. Nowadays, I am into the Shield, and that includes Roman Reigns. So all you guys out there, all the haters can just, you can put your fingers in your ears if you want. I like Roman Reigns. I think that Roman Reigns is interesting to watch. I think that he's a very powerful athlete, and I think that he has a body that I would walk over broken glass to get to hug. Damn, that man is hot. Woo! I'm also a fan of Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. I think they're both really interesting guys. I think I love watching Dean. I've watched earlier stuff of Dean, including some of the Combat Zone shit and the other things, and some of the Combat Zone stuff, oh my god. I mean, I watch Combat Zone and I'm like, this makes me remember why I loved ECW so much. The right ECW, you guys know what I mean. But I watched the stuff that he did back there and I'm like, holy shit, this guy is insane. Completely out of his fucking, this guy makes Sabu look like, tame-ish. Nothing's really ever going to make Sabu look tame. Come on, let's be real. That dude is out there. And I mean that in the nicest possible way, sir, if you're listening, because yes, you do scare me. But there's just something about Dean that I really like. I like for lack of a better word, I like his swagger. I like the fact that he just goes out there with this, I don't give a fuck what you think, I'm going to do what I want to do thing. I just like that. I think when he gets that smile on his face, that smile that's like, I'm going to do something completely out there simply because I want to. I just like that. I like that about him. And Renee Young is a very lucky lady to be married to him, although I would be very worried since unfortunately Dean is out right now with, recovering from surgery. Get well soon, dude. And Renee's out on the road with the WWE. I would be worried leaving Dean home alone. Simply because she's going to come home and probably find like their living room painted purple or something like that with like zebra stripes on the ceiling or whatever. He just seems like the type of guy that would totally do that. And Seth is, it's really funny because Seth can be such a prick when he wants to be. He can be a real brat when he wants to be. When he was part of the Authority, and, the whole betrayal of the Shield thing, which was, it was kind of like, well, you knew somebody was going to turn, just the way the whole thing was set up, the whole thing with Randy and Triple H out there and the whole I always have a plan B thing, and I was like, yeah, somebody's turning in. Oh, it's Seth. Okay. He was a brat. He was a brat, and he was actually quite good at being a brat. Now that he's back to being, on the side of good again, I suppose, although he's stuck with Jason Jordan, so that's kind of on the side of lame. I like Seth. I do kind of wish he still had the two-tone hair. I like the two-tone hair. I know it was probably a bitch to take care of, but I liked it. It was an interesting look. I liked it. I'm really into Finn Balor. I think he is an incredible athlete. I love the whole aspect of the duality of Finn and the Demon King. I really dig that. I really dig that. Because I love the whole entrance that they have for the Demon King. I think the whole thing and the grandeur of it and the mysteriousness of it, I think it's very, very cool. It's not like the old school Undertaker stuff, but it's got that same sort of eerie vibe to it, and I really dig that. And the makeup that they do for Finn when he does that, the body makeup, I mean, that is sick. That is crazy good stuff. But like I said, I like Finn when he's just Finn, because Finn is an incredible athlete. He is really good on the microphone, and he is also one big dork. And I mean that in the nicest possible way. He's this guy that he's a professional wrestler, and he's someone you'd think would be, talking about all the time about kicking people's ass and stuff. No, he likes Legos. He's talked about being a fan of Legos and stuff like that. And I'm like, that is completely adorable. And yes, I just called a professional wrestler adorable. So there. I'm a woman. I have needs. Don't judge me. You're going to hear that a lot on this show too. And he's got that accent. He's got that sexy Irish accent. Oh man, that really melts my butter. Accents do it for me. Accents completely do it for me. And the whole Balor Club thing, him being back together with Gallows and Anderson, that's pretty cool. I'm liking this so far. Although Gallows and Anderson, I realize they're incredible to watch, and they do such good work together. The whole nerds thing about people that are into science fiction and all that stuff like that, I'm like, yeah, fine, okay, we're nerds, yeah. Yeah, Bill Gates would qualify as a nerd. He could probably buy and sell you guys about 80 times each. But I think that they're great, and obviously, there's lots of amazing people on both Raw and SmackDown. The whole Raw versus SmackDown thing, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know why I don't like it. I just don't. I'm just kind of like, everybody knows that it belongs, the whole company is one thing, so the whole versus thing is kind of stupid. I know suspension of disbelief, but, there does come a point when suspension of disbelief can only go so far, and then you come to the end of you're like a dog on a leash that runs too far and then goes, Glah! Like that, it's like that suspension of disbelief thing happens. But there's and there's lots of great ladies that I love to watch. Watch their work. Sasha Banks, obviously incredible. Charlotte Flair, who is, wow. It's really weird because Charlotte's really good as a face or a heel. I like her better as a face. I don't know why. I just do. I just think that she's just cooler as a face. I don't know. It's just me. I don't know. Considering that her dad kind of flip-flopped his whole career, maybe she's going to do the same thing. Hopefully not as much as Big Show, who hopefully didn't hear that. Because just saying, really respect you, sir. Please don't kill me. But, there's so many people in wrestling to watch and to like, and, I think that's the great thing about wrestling. That's the one thing that's so much cooler about wrestling than anything else is the variety of people that you can get behind as a fan. If you're into big muscular guys, there's somebody that you can like, that looks like that. If you're into more, of a cruiserweight type, there's tons of cruiserweights out there. If you like watching women wrestle, if you like watching, whatever you're into, you're probably going to find wrestling that, suits that. And that's awesome. That's so cool. And every once in a while you have something happen in wrestling. You have a person that's so inspiring for whatever reason. And that's awesome. When you look back at somebody, you look at people like AJ Lee, and Bailey and people like that talk about how they, pursued their dream of wrestling because they were such big fans of people, like Lita and Trish Stratus and all these kind of people like that. I mean, that's awesome. And it's so awesome to think that there's some kid in the audience right now watching wrestling and they're thinking, someday I want to grow up and be like whomever, and that is awesome. And that's going to be such an amazing thing for wrestlers when they have people tell them that, you inspired me to go into this as a career or that kind of a thing. I would think that would be very cool and very flattering. I would think. I mean, I would hope anyway. So what else can I talk about here? Okay. We're going to talk now about, this past week's Raw and Smackdown. Just a couple of real quick recaps for you guys. These aren't going to be really detailed recaps in talking about individual things about matches. It's mostly just going to be who pinned who and just varied thoughts that I had throughout the show, because there's a ton of other places you can go get more detailed stuff from people that have been doing this a lot longer than me and quite frankly probably do it better. So, starting things off with Monday Night Raw from the 16th of January in San Antonio, Texas. In the great state of Texas, we have first, starting off the show, the thing that we usually have, a recap of all the stuff that happened the week before. And then we get to Braun Strowman, who, of course, as we all remember from the week before, nearly murdered Brock Lesnar and Kane on TV by literally bringing down the house. Braun comes out to the ring and starts talking and threatening and being all menacing and stuff because he's a big scary man, which brings out Kurt Angle, Raw's GM, who is followed by a shit ton of security. That's always a good sign. And so we have a little bit of blah blah between Braun and Kurt in the ring, which ends with Braun getting fired by Kurt. I have to admit, I did not see that coming. I was like, okay, that's I don't think this is going to end well, and surprise, it didn't. Brock, I'm sorry, I keep saying Brock. Braun is escorted to the back of the building by security and does not leave, surprisingly. We get the first match of the evening, which was The Bar, which is Cesaro and Sheamus, versus Titus O'Neil and Apollo Crews, with Dana Brooke in their corner doing her best Alexandra York impression. That ended with O'Neil and Crews getting the win. So far, the sign of the night, I'm going to bring up signs every once in a while if they interest me. The sign of the night was the person with the Braun Snowman sign, which had a big picture of Braun's head on a little cartoon snowman. That was just funny. I know it's a dumb visual gag, but I'm a sucker for dumb visual gags. What do you want? I gotta say one thing about Titus O'Neil. He is incredible, and he's a really great athlete and a very nice person from what I can tell. I just don't get the barking thing. I don't get I don't get it. Is this like a shout out to a school or something? I don't get it. The "You Look Stupid" chants, stay classy, San Antonio. I really couldn't tell who they were at. I'm like, are they at Sheamus for his haircut again? Are they at Cesaro for the fact that he's got the mouth guard in because of that unfortunate incident with his teeth a few months back? If that's the case, that's really mean, you guys. That's not nice. Sheamus, to me, looks like a rooster that really needs a tan. There's moose and then there's that, it's more than moose, it's a whole herd of moose. He's got that much moose in his hair with his hair like that. The next thing we get is Jason Jordan, who walks out during the match we had Jason Jordan walk out during the whole match with the Bar versus Titus and Apollo, because he and Seth Rollins are feuding with the Bar. Jason didn't do anything, just stood there and grinned and looked irritating. Seth Rollins came out and was basically like, WTF are you doing? Get in the back kind of deal. We see the backstage area, and the security has walked Braun Strowman finally to the door to which he's supposed to be leaving. I'm like, how big is this fucking building that it took them that long to get back there? I know shit's big in Texas, but come on. As it turns out, we get to the back of the building again, and we see Braun Strowman expressing his anger about what happened a little earlier by beating the living shit out of Kurt Angle's office. He really did a number on the feng shui of the room. Braun then goes off and wrecks catering, throwing people around, throwing food around. He had beat up the security, as I mentioned previously. I'm sorry, I'm watching him throw the food all over the place and watching him throw people all over the place. All I hear is my mother's voice in my ear. People starving in China, and he's throwing food around. The thing that I thought, the one hilarious part of the whole thing was the guy standing there like he was petrified, deer in the headlights look on his face, and he's holding a cake, and it was actually a really good looking cake. And Braun takes a slice of it and shoves it pretty much whole into his mouth and walks off. And somehow the guy doesn't faint, considering how stiff and scared he looks. I'm like, yep, attack everybody, break all you can, but don't you dare hurt the chocolate cake. That's the way life goes. We are then graced by Enzo Amore, who wastes a bunch of oxygen on the mic as he stands out there with Tony Nese, and Cedric Alexander comes out to the ring accompanied by his new bestie Goldust, who cuts a very nice promo on Enzo. And we had a match with Cedric Alexander versus Tony Nese, which ended with Cedric getting the win. Kurt Angle has finally decided to call the cops about the fact that, Braun Strowman's running completely amok, beating the shit out of people and causing untold amounts of property damage. So the 5-0 has been called, and during his discussions, Kurt compares Braun to a wild elephant. Rude. Elephants are beautiful, noble, graceful creatures, and there's no reason to start getting nasty by comparing them to Braun Strowman, who's got more of a temper. Rude. And also gets word that Braun has now headed for the production trucks. That can't be good. That falls into the not good thing. They kept talking about, the announcing team kept talking about, people getting fired. Like Booker T kept bringing up that, you don't fire a guy like Braun Strowman face to face and all this stuff like that. You fire him by phone, you fire him by FedEx, you blah, blah, you fire him every other way but face to face. And I'm sitting there thinking, what kind of a douche nozzle fires somebody via FedEx? Oh, wait. That guy you used to work for, Booker, that Eric Bischoff fellow, he was a douche nozzle that used to fire people by FedEx. That's right. I knew it was somebody. I just kind of forgot there for a second. We get to the back again, and we see Braun in the production truck, scaring the shit out of a bunch of people who are in the production truck. He, kind of throws some papers around and basically has a bit more of a snit fit. Gets outside, and Braun disconnects the tractor from the trailer part and drives the truck a little tiny bit away from it. I'm assuming you have a CDL license, Braun, or you can get in a lot of trouble. Braun then shows how supremely pissed off he is by flipping over the tractor part of the truck. It was well shot. I thought it was well shot. It looked really impressive. Kurt tells him that he's called the cops, and Braun storms out. From the look of things, he's storming out to the front as Kurt gets a phone call. Braun comes out to the front of the arena again, on the ramp, and walks over to the announce table, and Michael Cole somehow manages to do that one thing that you always see some girl doing in a horror movie. You know that scene where you've got the girl running from the masked, killer, and she's running and all of a sudden she trips, or, trips on her shoe or slips on a wet patch of grass or whatever, and she falls, and, she looks up and the guy's standing over her, with the chainsaw about to, cut her in half or whatever. Basically, picture that, only that happens with Michael Cole, because he doesn't get out of the way fast enough and somehow winds up staring up at Braun Strowman, and we know that the next thing that's going to happen is not going to bode terribly well for one Mr. Cole. Braun then picks Michael up and threatens to throw him off the stage, but Kurt comes out and stops this from happening by saying the cops they've been told not to show up, and Stephanie has rehired Braun, and he's going to be in the match at the Royal Rumble, the three-way dance between Braun, Brock Lesnar, and Kane. Michael Cole still gets thrown off the stage anyway, but lands on the security guard, so everything's fine. Great lesson to your fans, WWE. Great lesson for the kids out there. If you don't get your own way, throw a tantrum and, wreck as much shit as you can until people change their minds. Great lesson. Tom Phillips winds up joining Booker T and Corey Graves at the announcing table. It's, the whole, and the thing I loved was, the announcers are all, it was so appalling what happened, it's so terrible, let's show it again. Yeah, okay, we get a ladies match next with Nia Jax versus Asuka, and just personal aside, I love Asuka's ring robe, absolutely love it. Asuka winds up winning the match because the referee stops it because Nia Jax appears to be hurt. Another personal note, whenever Asuka screams, I want to run away. Asuka scares me, and I mean that in the most respectful way humanly possible. The refs and some medical people come out to help Nia walk out of the ring. Also comes out Alexa Bliss to check on her friend. We see Kurt in what's left of his office, getting a visit from Jason Jordan. And Jason, through the fact that he can't shut his fucking mouth, gets Seth Rollins booked in a match with Finn Balor. Yeah, I'm sure Seth's going to be doing cartwheels over this one. We have a really beautiful tribute to the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Really nice. It was really moving and beautiful, including the words of Bobby Kennedy about Dr. King and a 10-bell salute. Really nicely done stuff. We get a backstage segment with Nia and Enzo and Alexa Bliss as well, going where it's going. Also, what was after that? We had the Revival, which Wilder and Dawson versus a couple of guys we never got the names of, and this is your typical squash match. The Revival put themselves over in the ring after it's done, and we're supposed to not like them because they're professional wrestlers and they call themselves professional wrestlers instead of sports entertainers, and for some reason this is a bad thing, I guess. I don't know. I'm confused. And I also don't care. I mean, eventually I think I will care, so. We find out what's coming up next which is Elias. And I would rather walk into a crocodile enclosure wearing a dress made of meat than walk with Elias. Just thought I'd throw that out there. We have Elias singing about fighting John Cena at the Royal Rumble and then insulting the San Antonio Spurs, because that seems like a really safe thing to do in fucking Texas. Insult the sports team. in Texas. Yeah, that I can't see anything going wrong with that. That's a great idea. He winds up serenading or singing the entrance for The Miz and The Miztourage. I hate that name. I hate it. I can't stand it. And out comes The Miz and Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel, and Bo Dallas needs to fucking shave. Oh, damn it. I hate that damn beard. Bo is such a good-looking guy, and that beard drives me insane. Yes, I'm speaking from a strictly physical level. I'm shallow. I know. Fine. We have Intercontinental Champion, an incredibly hot person, Roman Reigns against the Miztourage in a handicap match, and Roman goes over, like you thought that wasn't going to happen, which was just awesome. We had another sign of the night. I can have more than one sign. It's my show. Fuck it. The other sign of the night for me was the person that had the sign that said, Roman, put your reins on me. To which my response is, get a number and stand in line, and the line forms behind me. So, there's that. The Roman sucks chants, you are entitled to doing that. You are entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to my opinion. Go fuck yourselves. There. That's my opinion. And I know that's his job, and he's obviously very good at his job, because you're supposed to hate The Miz. He's the heel. He's the bad guy. You're supposed to hate him. He's doing an awfully good job, because he is such a little bitch. I mean, he is such a bitch. Ugh. And Roman Reigns has a beautiful smile. So, just thought I'd say that. Roman, if you're out there, call me. We had a match next up was another ladies match with Sasha Banks versus Sonya Deville from the team of Absolution, which is made up of, Sonya Deville, Paige, and Mandy Rose. Mickie James and Bayley were in Sasha's corner, and Paige and Mandy Rose were in Sonya's. Mandy Rose looks like all those girls in high school that I went to school with that I used to think were just... I won't say. I'm not going to say that. These, anybody ever see the end of Carrie? Anyway, bad memories. Anyway, so Sonya won that match. We had another segment where we saw various WWE superstars at the Civil Rights Museum, going through the museum, which is obviously a very powerful, moving experience, something that I think everybody should do at some point, because obviously we're still having issues with that in this country, which is fucking insane, because it's 2018 and we shouldn't be having those issues anymore. We should be at a point where that kind of shit is in the rear view mirror going the other way, but that's just my opinion, and what the fuck do I know? We cut again to the back to Seth Rollins telling Jason Jordan to dial it down a notch, pretty much. And so then we get Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy came out and, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get the whole woken Matt Hardy thing. I don't get it. I didn't get it when it was in TNA and he was broken Matt Hardy. I don't get it. I don't get the whole Sweeney Todd hair. I don't get the weird ass accent. I don't get it. I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm saying I don't get it. I mean, you be you. That's fine. I'm just hoping we're not going to go back to the way Jeff looked in TNA back when he was Brother Nero and he looked like he'd been bit by a walker from The Walking Dead. Could we not do that again? Because Jeff's a good looking guy and I don't like seeing beautiful things get wrecked. I just don't. Matt won his match against Heath Slater. It was announced who the first WWE Hall of Fame member for 2018 will be, and that will be Bill Goldberg, so that's very exciting. We had Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins with Jason Jordan in Seth's corner and Gallows and Anderson in Finn's. The Bar showed up. There was chaos. and Gallows and Anderson started fighting them, and Jason Jordan wound up grabbing Finn's leg, and Seth got the pin. Great. You know, I don't know what else to say. I mean, I'm not sure if they're turning Jason Jordan or they're trying to make us care about him. Either way, it's not happening. Seth is like, I love the way Seth's whole attitude seems to be like, he is 2 seconds away from done. He is 2 seconds away from done. And he's very good at getting that aggravation out and that aggravatedness. I like the way that he does it. I think he does a good job of conveying that. So that was Raw for Monday night. And SmackDown on Tuesday night, January 16th, 2018, came from Laredo, Texas. We had New Day opening the show and tossing out pancakes. And who eats pancakes without syrup and butter? Seriously, that's just nasty. That's just bleh. This is, like I said, most of my stuff is recap, but there are little bits of, you know, my own thoughts in there. And one of my own thoughts is that Corey Graves just annoys the shit out of me. And that's his job. I realize that, but fuck, he irritates me. Just watching New Day and listening to people just hang on every word they say. Those guys are so over. It is ridiculous. We had a match for the vacant U.S. title. They're doing a tournament right now to set up who's going to be going for the title at the Royal Rumble. In the brackets right now, we have Jinder Mahal versus Xavier Woods of the New Day, and Jinder winds up winning that match, so he advances in the tournament. Yay. Baron Corbin has announced that he is in the Royal Rumble. Thrillsville. I'm sorry, the whole lone wolf thing, no. Wolves are beautiful, noble creatures, and they don't need to have an association with this guy. Just thought I'd say that. And yes, sometimes I can be a tree-hugging hippie. Deal with it. I want to bring up the little thing that they're doing these intergender matches with one man and one woman against another man and another woman, and all these teams have been put together. Finn Balor is teaming up with Sasha Banks, and Finn Balor in a too tight shirt that he rips off. Could we have some more of that just on a loop over and over again? Because I want to drink champagne off that man's abs. I really do. Tom Phillips, I want to bring this up real quick about Tom. I don't know where he got a purple tie that had like a plaid pattern to it, like a tartan pattern in purple. But I liked it. It worked. I mean, not a lot of people can wear purple, but nice going, Tom. We had Renee interviewing AJ Styles, who came up with the best portmanteau of the year so far, in referring to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn as Cammy. I mean, normally when I think Cammy, I think that character from Street Fighter, but now I'm going to think of those two guys. So thanks for that, AJ. It was actually a really funny interview. And has anybody else noticed that the older AJ Styles gets and the longer his hair gets, the more he looks like Tom Cruise? How does that work? I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, I'm not complaining about it. I just don't get it. Natalia with the cat ears, it's just, no. Seriously, no. No. Ugh. Next up was another U.S. title tournament match with Glorious Bobby Roode versus Mojo Rawley, with Bobby Roode taking the win and advancing in the tournament. Bobby's theme, the Glorious theme they gave for him, it's got like this whole kind of arena rock vibe to it. I really like it. I do want to bring up one thing, though, that the hand gesture that he does before he does one of his big finishing moves that Bobby Roode has, that hand gesture that he does, it looks like he's trying to dry his nails really, really fast. I mean, I know that's a stupid observation, but like I said, it's my show. After the match is over, Bobby was jumped by the Singh brothers, who are the hench weasels for Jinder Mahal. I don't know what the Hindi word for jerk is. I do want to find out. Jinder starts talking some smack at Bobby, and Bobby throws it right back in his face. And all of a sudden, here's SmackDown GM Daniel Bryan, who has announced that the championship match for the U.S. title, instead of being at the Royal Rumble, is going to be tonight. So Bobby Roode's kind of like, yay-ish? I don't know. He didn't look too unhappy, but he didn't look too thrilled either. I don't blame him. He was just in a really good match and got the hell beat out of him after it. Next up was Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, and Naomi versus the Riot Squad. Riot with 2 T's. How edgy. And yes, that was in Dr. Evil quotes. Charlotte is so athletic. I mean, just watching her come in the ring and do, she does the cartwheels and all the splits and all that crazy stuff she does. I'm like, damn. I just watched that and I'm completely like, wow. She is really something special. Naomi came out to the ring in her Dayglow outfit thing that she wears that is actually very cool. I like it. I like her entrance. I think it's amazing. That whole slide on your knees thing, though, that must like wreak havoc on your knees. But I do want to bring up the fact that the sunglasses that she had on, the glow-in-the-dark shades and all that, I got reminded of Geordi's visor from Star Trek The Next Generation. Did anybody get that vibe? Or it's probably just me. I know, it's probably just me. The Riot Squad won that match, so there's that. And we had... what came after that? I'm sorry, I'm trying to read my handwriting here. We had an interview backstage with the Usos where they were trying to talk about who was who, doing the whole, the Usos version of Fred and George Weasley from Harry Potter. Unfortunately, that fun interview was cut short by a sneak attack from Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin. Boo hiss. Then we got the final match of the evening, the match that actually brought down to the ringside area. Also, besides Daniel Bryan, also Shane McMahon, Bobby Roode versus Jinder Mahal in a really good match. Lots of back and forth, really good stuff, which ended with Bobby Roode getting the win, and now Bobby Roode is the new United States champion, so good for him. It's going to be really interesting to see where it goes from there, if they're going to do up a feud between Roode and Mahal, or whomever, now that he's got the belt. It's kind of a big old target on his back going into the Royal Rumble, which, in case you guys didn't know, is in 2 weeks, because they've been so subtle about telling us about it. So, that is my first show. I hope you liked it. If you have any questions or comments or query or feedback or criticism or money or anything else you'd like to send my way, you can definitely do that at platinumrosel@yahoo.com. And I hope that you guys will come back next week when I have another show where I will have results and ramblings and whatever else happens to go through my mind at the time. So, this has been my first show of Ring Around the Rosie. Hopefully it won't be my last. This is Kim Brown. I hope everybody out there has a terrific week. And I hope you come back next week for another episode. So ring that bell, because we are out of here.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.
PNR.